Welcome to the Be the If podcast. Here, we focus on being intentional about your life, your time, and your legacy. I am your host, Jared Walker, and my goal is to help you be the if to your legacy. A fact is a family anticipated celebration and tradition. See, if you don't have traditions outside of what other people have told you to do, then you're not being very intentional. If the only things that you are actually doing in life are based off of somebody else's expectations, somebody else's establishment of what you should do and could do and would do and you need to do, and you doing what everybody else wants you to do, you following a crowd that don't belong to you. Today's conversation is about to be a phenomenal one because I understand that in order to be intentional about your life, you have to become aware of how you are first living. You ever find yourself going through some struggles in life that put you in a position to where you start reflecting and realizing, man, something's got to change. I don't like where I'm at. I can't stand this situation that I'm constantly finding myself in. I remember whenever I was so focused at one point in my life where I was doing everything that I thought I needed to do. However, I found myself walking into a barbershop, sitting down and getting my hair cut, and my barber was my main guy. I mean, one of the best people that I've ever known. And this individual was a good listening ear. You ever had a good barber? Yeah, a good barber know how to listen well, talk well, and cut well. they ain't there a jack of all trades. Well, I remember expressing to him, I said, man, what do you do when your priorities are your biggest distractions? He cut his clippers off and he looked at me, he said, what? I said, man, my wife and my kids are always distracting me from doing the things that I need to do. Before he cut them clippers back on, he looked dead at me, looked me dead in the eyes and said, that's a good problem to have. He cut his clippers back on and started cutting hair again. I'm like, what? See, I didn't realize that the problems that I was actually experiencing were good problems to have. And the truth is, my priorities were not distracting me from my priorities. I was not focused on the right thing. See, I remember being in the bed one day. I was stuck in bed because I was injured. I never saw myself being in that condition or position. And I heard my wife in the other room fussing at the kids. And all I can think is, she's been telling me about all of this stuff for quite some time. See, the complaints that I was hearing her complain about were things that she had been trying to make me aware of for a minute. Problem was, I was so focused on everything else that I was doing, trying to be this guy that was useful to all of these people, that I realized in that moment of hearing her fuss at the kids for what they were doing, I realized I failed my family. I felt like a failure. I felt like here I am laying up in this bed and she's in there struggling, just trying to get the children to do the things that they need to do. And the reason that they possibly aren't doing what they need to do is because their father had not been doing what he needed to do. See, it was in that moment I laid there feeling like I was not only a failure, but I needed to change. You ever been in a situation where you realized something had to change, however, you just didn't know what? You knew you weren't doing well. It's like going to the doctor trying to figure out what's going on specifically, and you don't know what it is. You just know that you don't feel good. Well, I know I felt like a failure. And I knew I felt like I was somebody that was not worth mimicking and modeling. I was failing my family. I was failing as a husband. I was failing as a father. And then it made me realize that the problem was my priorities. See, my priorities were out of order. Yeah, the problems that I had were good problems, but they honestly didn't have any business being a problem. My children should not have been a distraction from something else. Something else is supposed to be the distraction for my children, and that's an easy adjustment. I remember being out of town for my wife and I's anniversary / birthday, her birthday, anniversary, and our son's birthday. They are very close, all within the same month. It's September. And I had this itinerary set up and we were supposed to go have a good old time. And I had everything planned out. The only issue is I failed to consider the weather. And you would think I knew better because, I mean, multiple times going to Jamaica for our anniversary, not thinking clearly about the fact that, yo, you know they got hurricanes, right? You know September is a hurricane season. You know there's going to be some problems. You know it's going to be some type of weather issues. And I guess because I thought I stayed in Texas in that time, I didn't have to worry about that because we weren't traveling that far. Oh, man. So I'm literally feeling like, yeah, I'm beating everything because I'm out of work, on vacation, and where I was working at, they on strike right now, and I'm not participating in none of that. I'm with my wife, I'm with my kids, we good. I ain't got to worry about nothing. Little did I know, the very place that I had my family positioned to be at, we were going to be stuck in that place, and we weren't going to do anything on that itinerary. See, Hurricane Imelda shut all of that down. The Airbnb I had got us was high above the ground for a reason, because the floods were normal. Oh man, we were flooded in. We couldn't do anything but enjoy one another. See, she told me that though that trip did not go as I planned it, it was the best experience that she had had in a long time because she and the children had my full, undivided attention. When we got back home after the week, I had some adjustments that had to be made because my family needed me. They needed me to show up and be the if. They needed me to be an intentional father. And I needed to be intentional as a family with my children and my wife. So we were reviewing the finances for the previous year. And I saw a number that I just was not comfortable with on how much we had been spending on coffee. And I thought to myself, I said, man, I swear for Bob, we will never do that again. Stuck on that Starbucks, that bill was running up. And the first step was figuring out what it is that I could do to not only decrease the actual amount that's going out, but increase the experience, if not to maintain it where it was at. I'm still at home. I'm still recovering. I'm still going through the process of physically suffering and mentally suffering. However, I got my attention on my family. See, when I started focusing on my family, I started seeing differences in how my children were behaving. I started seeing differences in how my wife was even responding to me. See, I started finding myself becoming somebody that I didn't even know I could be. And the first step to becoming an intentional father, I recognized that not only did I need to put a plan in action, but I had to get intentional about it and consistently do it. So what did I do? Well, this whole process of removing things, but maintaining the quality, if not enhancing things, I said, look, why don't we just have a family day? And I did that. I implemented that. And we've had a family day since 2019. But the thing is, it's not a yearly event. It's a weekly one. See, the first step to becoming an intentional father required me to put something in place that was repetitious. You ever done something one time and you were like, oh, that was too good to only do once. So you want to go and do it again and do it again and eventually it's like, man, it's kind of played out. Not over here. See, I found myself so intentional as a father that every week we had family day on Wednesdays. So while everybody else was focused on, oh, we're going to go do this, we're going to do that, whatever their personal traditions were, I realized that in order to have something that I want my children to remember and retain and even do themselves, it's got to be repetitious and it's got to be worth it. So every Wednesday, we would use this uni that we got to make pizza. Family day. Since then, going on 5 years, been having family day. And the crazy part about it all is family day became something that we could actually anticipate and expect. See, if you don't have your facts in place, you're failing. What I mean by that? A fact is a family anticipated celebration and tradition. See, if you don't have traditions outside of what other people have told you to do, then you're not being very intentional. If the only things that you are actually doing in life are based off of somebody else's expectations, somebody else's establishing of what you should do and could do and would do and you need to do, and you doing what everybody else wants you to do, you following a crowd that don't belong to you. See, my priority was my family, and it is my family. So what I ended up doing is we implemented Family Day. Then I realized, well, shoot, man, COVID hit. We stuck in the house. I said, man, bump this. We got our Family Day and date night every Thursday. Man, that date night saved my life. because I had intentional time with my wife and it was already planned and established. We've been going at this every week for years now. And the fact of the matter is, it does not require as much as people think it does. It simply requires intentionality. So getting intentional about every Wednesday and every Thursday caused me to realize, you are doing a lot, even while you're trying to heal and recover. Well, how about this? How about I implement a Wife Day? Wife Day turned into, it don't matter how I'm feeling. You're going to take this hat off, you're going to put this cape on, and you're going to do it even with kryptonite in your pocket. See, as a father, I don't get to wear a bunch of different hats. I got to put the cape on, and my family need me to show up however it is they need me to. It don't matter how I'm feeling. So I got intentional about that. And the very thing that I started doing led to my children anticipating me coming home in a way to where every day I would come home and I would walk through the door and all I heard was, Daddy, 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 Daddy. And they would not stop until I made myself known. Hey, what's going on? Showed my face, went and gave them some love. But this came from being intentional. And it seems that my most bright days came from my darkest hours, from me being ill. And in the process of recovering, I was also becoming. See, I was becoming exactly who it was my family needed me to be. And my honest belief is you may be going through some things in life that's preventing you from seeing clearly. And the truth of the matter is, it's what you are capable of looking at right now that is preventing you from being as distracted by other things as you could be. See, I heard about this law. It's called the law of vitality. What this means is whenever your health is good, you got perfect health, whenever you good, guess what? Everything is a problem. There's problems everywhere. But see, it's not until you're sick and your health needs to be recovered that only one thing matters. See, when you go from everything being a problem and all types of problems I'm talking about you can see them clearly. Well, that's that. And they all matter to a certain extent. But see, whenever you get to a point where you're sick and you're struggling, you're trying to heal and overcome something, see, only one thing matters at that point, and that's healing. And in the process of becoming who it is you are capable of becoming, you are able to see things from a perspective that you could not see them from initially. See, after going through the process of establishing family day, date night, and wife day, and all of that, and being consistent in that, time went on and I inevitably found myself struggling once again with my mental health. And after I struggled with my mental health, I found myself finding myself looking in the mirror, not recognizing who it was that I had become. And the man in the mirror that I had become, I could see him looking a certain type of way. But here's the crazy part. He looked confident. He looked reliable. He looked dependable, but I didn't feel that way. So I didn't even trust what I was seeing. I remember pulling my wife to the side and saying, hey, baby, look in the mirror. She looked. I said, you see him? She said, yeah. I said, now look at me. She's like, okay, I was looking at you then. She said, I said, no, look. Do I look like that in the mirror? And that's when she said to me, yes, you do. And I'm proud of you. See, you're finally starting to see yourself the way that others are seeing you. The way that I have always seen you. I said, but how? I don't feel that way. And it was at that moment I realized that the person I was becoming was at conflict with the person I had already become. See, the challenges that are presented to you are opportunities to overcome where you at to become who you're supposed to be. And the challenge of that person is capable of accomplishing many, many, many things, but not for self, for others. See, the fruit that I was producing was making me useful for other people. And when my mental health was where it's at, it put me in a position to understand what those who were constantly dealing with depression felt like, constantly dealing with anxiety felt like, constantly dealing with feeling like a failure felt like, constantly dealing with trying to figure all of this stuff out the hard way felt like, constantly, I'm talking about I get it, I got it. So in the process of becoming the if, I had to go through it. And the fire that I went through put me in a position to be useful for other people to actually put out their flames, or at least give them the extinguisher they need to do so. So the strategy of becoming an intentional father, an intentional family, an intentional friend, getting intentional about your faith, your finances, and your fitness, all of those things require you to go through a process that you might not want to go through, but you need to. And here's the reality. You're already in it. I guess more about that on the next episode. Because the life that I've been able to live since becoming the if, since becoming intentional, since realized not only I was failing my family, but I didn't have to stay there. I got to trying things on a day-to-day basis, trying to figure this thing out. But guess what? I got you. Because the payoff of it all was so worth it. I am confident that you can operate within what is worth your time in such a way that it will cause people to look at you and ask, how did you do it? And that's when you know you have become the if. Because you know it ain't easy, but it's worth it. Very much so. Look, I'll catch y'all next episode. I guess next time, all I want y'all to do is get so focused on the fact that you are going through what you're going through. But this is just an opportunity to become the next best version of yourself. Just experience it and endure it with intentionality. You don't have to stay where you're at. You can become more than what you think you can. Why? Because God says so. You created in his image. And God modeled himself whenever he created mankind. So what are you really incapable of? What are you believing about yourself that can be adjusted? Because if your belief is holding you back, I'm giving you permission to change your mind and get back right. Get focused in such a way that it causes you to live according to the potential that is already in you. That seed is meant to be planted and is meant to produce fruit. No tree eats of its own fruit. So the fruit that you are meant to produce is meant to be useful for someone else. Be fruitful intentionally and multiply in your purpose. You got this. Until next time, y'all stay focused.